What is good, Cardi people? Welcome to the channel. It's your poo. Bobbalam. In today's video, we talking about the Trippie night sales that has been going mainstream. It's been trending on Twitter a little bit in our little underground hip hop, not really underground, but you know what I'm saying, like the hip hop enthusiasts. In that the sales projections for Trippie night are a little bit lower than anticipated. Chart data came out with some stats telling us Trippie Redd's Trippie night is aiming for top 5 debut on the US albums chart with 65. Here's the numbers: 65 to 70K sold first week. Now, something to notice is that this does not count the Drake feature that just came out this morning on Betrayal. And as we all know, Drake is a god when it comes to streaming. So I expect these numbers to boost, 10, 20K max. Let's say 10K. So let's say a projection of 75 to 80K. So it looks like I'm about to lose this bet that I got going for Trippie Redd selling over 100K with Trippie night. So sorry, I gotta circle back all the way to the question of the video, in that, is this a flop, this 65 to 70K projection, because it's much lower than we expected. And I think if we did not have any expectations for Trippie night to sell over 100K or whatever it was, considering all of the anticipation as well as the features, which we'll get into in a second, no, it would not be a flop. But with all of the hype that it had and Trippie Redd essentially assembling the Avengers with the features, I'd say it's low-key not really a flop, but a lowercase L, because again, this album's been anticipated ever since December of 2020 when the Mr. Rage snippet first was previewed. It was going viral. Everybody was coming back to Trippie Redd after he apparently flopped with Pegasus, which we'll also talk about in a second. But again, we got to go over these features, in that bro got like the whole fucking squad, the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe on his side. Now, we can't count the Drake feature, and I guess we can't really count Sofego because he's not all that big yet. Trippie Redd probably encompasses all of Sofego's fans because he hasn't really been put on by Travis Scott just yet on Utopia, but after that we'll see where Sofego goes from there. But so again, the Drake feature doesn't count because that's going to boost it up, 10K more. But we had Lil Uzi on the Holy Smokes. Now, this was a single a few weeks back, maybe a month or so back, so maybe there wasn't as much hype for this song on the album. People aren't streaming it as much because they've already streamed it to the oblivion. It just don't turn them on anymore. Don't get them coochies wet. But still, it's Lil Uzi Vert, and Uzi tends to stream a lot, at least when it comes to rappers. Now, we also had Playboi Carti. However, this song dropped in April, which was what, 4 months ago? So I doubt there's that much hype or streams coming through for Mr. Rage. Like, obviously Mr. Rage, still people are playing on the aux because it gets you hyped. It makes you feel like you on coke or some shit, or on some Molly. But people are probably going to be streaming the new songs because they've already heard Mr. Rage, they've already watched the music video, the lyric video, whatever else, all the memes on fucking TikTok that were going viral before the song even dropped, like months in advance. He even waited too long to drop that song, which is going to be a theme for this album that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But he also had Ski Mask the Slump God. Now, he doesn't stream very well. He had like 16K on Sin City. But we have Juice WRLD, who is also a stream god because he kind of bleeds into the pop scene. XXXTentacion. Now, I already told y'all, this song was low-key an L, bro. It was fucking trash. But it's still XXXTentacion, and we all know that X fans stream the fuck out of him. But the problem with this song is that it was a reused verse from Ghostbusters that has, I don't know, millions upon millions, I think tens of millions of streams on SoundCloud, YouTube, and all of the non-monetized platforms, in total at least. So again, people kind of already ran through that bitch, ran train on the Ghostbusters songs. They don't need Danny Phantom. Danny Phantom hasn't even gone through puberty yet. And lastly, we got Rich MF with Polo G and Lil Durk, who are also streaming gods. More so Lil Durk, who had, I believe, top 3 streamed albums last year, along with Lil Baby. Don't quote me on that, but I know Lil Durk is up there. The streets have been riding for Lil Durk in 2020. Maybe it's because, I don't know, COVID, hella people getting sick. They got the vaccines afterwards so they didn't get sick again. And Biden putting government spy robots to listen to Lil Durk because he is a government experiment that is raising funds for the Taliban. I don't know. Now, as I mentioned before, there was a lot of hype for Trip at Night because of Miss the Rage that sold really well and had a Playboi Carti verse. So the Playboi Carti fan base was going crazy. The Trippie Redd fan base was going crazy, especially after Neon Shark and Pegasus, the 2 prior albums before this, kind of flopping a little bit. In that Pegasus sold 60K, and if you compare that to his previous album, A Love Letter to Euphoria, which was like a fan favorite series, that sold 104K. I think that's his most selling album ever. Then A Love Letter to You 3 before that sold 84K. However, the worst selling album that Trippie Redd has had ever since, you know, becoming successful, he's obviously sold less than this for some of the albums where he wasn't a big artist yet, was Exclamation Mark, which we already knew, and that sold 51K. So as long as he sells more than 51K, it's definitely not a fat L. But again, I think that Trip at Night, sales wise, is a lowercase L, because quality wise, I think that it was a solid album. I already told y'all, I think it was an 8 to an 8.5. I saw an 8.3 rating, which that's a pretty accurate rating if you ask me, because the first half was super solid. Every single song was very hype. You would definitely, if you got the aux in the car, you could play any of those safely. However, the second half, it kind of got repetitive. It had Danny Phantom. Matt Hardy was all right, but the OG was way better. Same with Ghostbusters for Danny Phantom. And then iPhone and Backy were kind of like, all right, sounded like TikTok basic white bitch songs. But I think the main reason that this album flopped, at least in some people's opinions, because it's only selling 65 to 75K projected, or whatever it ends up being because of Drake, is because he waited too long. I think if he dropped this album in April, the same time as Miss the Rage, and dropped Miss the Rage maybe in February when its hype was at its peak, then the album would have sold way more. Because I feel like, I mean, I even got off of YouTube for like a month, as y'all know, took a little breaky break. And it's because I didn't really feel passionate about any of the topics that were going on. It was just like DaBaby getting canceled. And one of the reasons was because we were talking about Trip at Night and Trippie Redd and Miss the Rage and Holy Smokes with Uzi every single week. However, there became like a dead period where we were just in a graveyard of hip hop. Nobody was really dropping that great of music. We were just waiting for Donda. And so the Trip at Night hype kind of died down. So if he dropped it even at the same time as Miss the Rage, because that got a lot of sales first week, maybe he dropped it 2 weeks after, it probably would have sold 10, 20K more, because Trippie Redd was super relevant. Obviously, every time Playboi Carti gets on a song, there's uber hype because he doesn't really come out of his house unless there's some bad bitches eating footlongs outside, you know what I'm saying? And in the streaming era, you kind of need all the help you can get, because I mean, it takes 1,500 streams to count for one album sale, and people don't really buy albums on iTunes anymore. I don't think I've ever done that in my life, even though I had the capability of doing it, but I don't think I had a credit card when iTunes was still a thing. It was always like go on YouTube and download it for YouTube to MP3, or go on SoundCloud and you just listen to it for free, maybe get a few ads here and there, and then Spotify. But in the streaming era, to sell albums, because even the hardcore Trippie fans, you could not even try or even come close to listening to one full album sale. 1,500 streams, bro. I'll probably listen to in my lifetime, maybe at maximum half of an album sale. Like listen to any of the 17 or 18 songs in the album, a total of 750 songs, or times rather. And so to sell an album nowadays, you gotta be playlisted. And I think one issue with Trip at Night is that it's not necessarily an issue, it's just, you know, for sales wise, it's a rage tape. It has all rage beats. And I really don't necessarily think that that is very mainstream, in the sense that your mom and sister, maybe even your brother who's not really a big hip hop fan, but just listens to Spotify playlists and other playlists, or even Apple Music playlists, they don't really listen to rage like that. They like to listen to like the more pop, and I like to call it like island beats, where it's like the xylophones and type shit. Kind of what Lil Tecca and Drake, Roddy Ricch, Rod Wave with the piano, Polo G. It's like much easier to listen to than if you start listening to Miss the Rage and there's just like this blaring megaphone in your ear. Like most people just can't handle it. They not OGs. They can't handle the superpowers of listening to rage beats. But nonetheless, I still think it was a great album. I already told you on my rating, 8 to 8.3 to 8.5. But I just think Trippie Redd waited too long. The hype died down, and here we are assembling the Avengers. But it looks like they lost to goddamn Megatron and Thanos. And so with that, it's your boy Bobbalam signing off. I'm about to go listen to Trip at Night while I pregame for whatever we doing tonight. Popping hella mollies. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Is it a flop, Trip at Night, or did it sell exactly what you thought? Make sure to like and subscribe to on the Bob Gang if you with it. Peace out, club people. Know what I'm saying?